Hey everybody, this is Josh
and Carolyn
with Homesteading Family, and welcome to this week's episode of the Pantry Chat, Food for Thought.
There you go. I like it.
Episode 15, and today we are going to be talking about planning your preserving year.
Yep. It's a big topic around the homestead. You see the big garden behind us, so we're going to have a lot of food to be preserving.
Absolutely, and Carolyn is producing what I think is going to be a fantastic canning class this year.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So
yeah, we were opening up the wait list today.
That's right. There is going to be, because we haven't made it yet, but there is a link.
By the time you're seeing this, there will be a link.
There is a link to sign up and get on the list for the preserving class.
Right. So this is just the waiting list for the canning class that is scheduled to come out in August right now. But there's going to be a lot of goodies if you're on the waiting list. I'm going to be dropping out some special sneak peek tutorials and good stuff. A little behind the scenes maybe, and some freebies here and there. And I think we were talking about, for people that get on the list, giving them some sort of discount, special discount just for people that sign up for the list. Absolutely. For other classes. For other classes. So that we have. If you want a current class that's available right now, you're going to get a special coupon for that once you sign up for this. And by signing up, you're getting on our email list. And when you're on our email list, you always get the first and best offers on anything we put out. Always. Limited time, usually just a few days. But when we launch a product or do something special, you're always going to get it first if you're on your email list. So there's a lot that comes besides. Before YouTube, before Facebook, before Instagram. Yep. Speaking of Instagram, real fast, have you guys caught what's going on over on our Instagram feed? On our Instagram page, we've made some changes. If you guys are, maybe you've noticed, or maybe you're not following along, but if you like Instagram. There are exclusive photos coming out there, special photos that are coming out that are going there that aren't going anywhere else. So. Right, we're taking a little more angle. We've got a budding photographer that's helping us, so a little more professional photography and stories that are a little different than the day-to-day. There's still a day in the life of kinda, but we're saving Facebook a little bit more for that. Of course, YouTube for videos and how-tos, but that Instagram's gonna have kind of special pics with special angles and just a little more artistic eye. Yeah, and it's getting some good response. Yeah, it really is. Really neat photos, so check that out if you have it. Okay. And all right, well, let's see, to get into the chit-chat. To the chit-chat. I mean, I know what's going on, but what's going on? What have you been up to? What I've been up to is what's right behind us here, which is mulching this garden, getting the mulch down on the garden. Right. We have some really good hay mulch that we got. From Free, which from we love. Farmer. We like Free. Free's a good word here. So, but we've been mulching the rows, the walkways, and a little bit of the plants themselves. But at this point, we're mulching the walkways. Well, right now, so if you guys have watched any of my gardening videos, I'm all about building soil and replicating nature. And nature always covers the soil. And so right now we have this type of mulch available, and it's great for the walkways and the size of these permanent raised beds that we've put in. Right. We'll need to get a mulch that is a little more broken down for around the plants. And but this is going to cover over 50% of the ground. Yeah. So that retains moisture. It helps the pathways from getting as compact, and over time is adding organic material back in. So and it helps keep the weeds down too. Oh, absolutely. It helps keep the weeds down. Yeah. Right. So it's just part of our system and building this permanent garden system here. So you guys really worked hard. Your team worked really hard while we're still moving ahead building raised rows. Yeah, so that's what you've been doing this week. Oh yeah, well, it's both of us. It's all garden. Our goal is to have the main garden in by June 1st, which is just a couple days away. And it's a push. So it's kind of all hands on deck. And we've been saying this for a few weeks, and that's because this year we are on a new property and we are putting in permanent infrastructure. These raised beds are made to not have to till and redo every year, loosen up the soil a little bit, add some compost and some mulch. So we're doing triple the work this year to get this done on time. Yeah. But everybody's doing great, and I'm hoping we're going to make it. And if any of you are in the Panhandle, of Idaho, right? And would be interested in a work day up here. I know it's short notice, but tomorrow, Saturday,
is our major final planting day in the garden.
What date is that, in case somebody's
That is
catching
June
this late?
1st.
June
1st. So if you're seeing this after June 1st, it's done and
It's
gone.
here.
But
We better
if you're
work faster.
local and you're interested in coming up, we could use a few extra hands. Would you email us or PM us? We're going to take 2 to 4 people.
Yeah.
And we'll provide lunch and just a good time out in the garden and share our knowledge and have a little fun together getting this thing wrapped up. So anyways, if you're available and interested, let us know.
Yeah, we get requests all the time, so this is a good moment.
I got to take one more. It's going to go a little bit long, but one more what's going on story.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
We had an incident with the barn cat.
Clover the barn cat.
Her foot was broken, and
we have no idea what happened. She's a barn cat, so she's out in the barn, but one day she shows up with a broken leg.
And Carolyn's mom offered to take her to the vet, so she did. Came back and had a big long splint on her leg. It was like 3 inches longer, all stretched out and stiff, and she just looked like she was in horrible condition.
She looked worse than before she went into the vets.
Right, and so we're all looking at her, and several folks thought that her other foot was broken as well. And I'm like, well, there's no way. The vet would have noticed that. We would have noticed that. She's been around the cow as we're milking. I saw her hobbling on the one leg. I said, no way the good leg was broken. Unless it got broke from the time you left the vets. Anyways, Grandma decided to take her back in, which was the right call. I confirmed that whatever, her foot that was supposed to be the good foot did look broken. So Grandma took her back in. Well, turns out the vet casted the wrong leg.
So there's your story that we're all human and we all make mistakes.
Absolutely.
Even the vets.
You know, it got us a good laugh, and I don't know if you're familiar with All Creatures Great and Small, the show, the old James Harriet series, but I just had this picture of Tristan making a mistake and Siegfried just going nuts. What did you do? Anyways, a bit of humor.
If you've never watched the old BBC series on All Creatures Great and Small, it's a fun thing to watch.
Family favorite. Carolyn grew up with it, and I didn't, but I love it now, and our kids love it. It's a fun show.
Fun thing to do. Okay.
Okay, moving on to the question of the day, and this is by Mike Griffin. Carolyn, love the hat.
Oh, no hat. Thanks,
Where'd you
Mike.
get that hat?
That was his hat when I first met you.
In my 20s, yeah.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah. Looks better on you.
And I took over, and it's my favorite hat.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Looks good on you.
I should have it on.
All right, Mike. But the question was, does Josh do any of the cooking?
Do I do any of the cooking? Josh is an amazing cook. He cooks really, really good food, and he is the barbecue extraordinaire guy.
I definitely do all the meat when we're outside.
When we're doing outside,
and barbecuing.
You know, there are things that you learn early on that you can learn, but you make an executive decision not to learn it because it means you're going to have to do it, and that's how I am with the barbecue. Don't know a thing about it, don't want to learn because he does a good job. But the thing
I'm not a good homestead cook.
The thing with Josh is he's a great cook, and he's going to give his all to every meal, which means that we might eat 2 or 3 hours later than we intended to, and we're going to use all the goodies in the kitchen that was budgeted for the whole month in one meal. So it's going to be the best meal you ever had at our place, but it's going to be expensive and late.
So I don't cook very often anymore. I'm not allowed.
But it's always a treat when you do. So
maybe later when we're a little older, I can do more of the cooking for you.
I gotta say,
because I love to cook. I absolutely love to cook.
And he
I
does a good
love
job.
it from
it's
all the way from
good.
Raising the food from the ground to producing a gourmet meal. But yeah.
Now, one thing Josh has really taught me about cooking, though, is about marketing my cooking. Because when he's cooking, he stands in the kitchen and he does this, oh, this is going to be so good. Wow, this is amazing. And every person that walks by, he says, can you smell that? That smells so good. This is going to be the best meal ever. And then when we sit down, everybody goes, wow, this is so amazing, because they're all excited about it. So I've really had to learn that I need to market to my family when I'm cooking, and that it's not just smell alone.
And it works. It works too. It does. It works really well.
Yeah,
talk it up. Yeah, I didn't even know what I was doing, but My own enthusiasm, I guess.
It's good.
All right,
So,
there you go. So,
okay.
yep, Josh cooks
Josh
when
cooks.
he's allowed. All right, so on to main topic. Hey, we're doing pretty good on time today.
Oh,
so
good.
on to main topic. Yeah, and this is Carolyn's core topic here, and I'll help things move along. But planning your preserving year. There's a lot that goes into preserving our food and using what we have when it's in season, and some of the stuff we were talking about last week with meal planning, but then preparing to have all these meals and all this food put up and ready for use when there's not much fresh food in season.
That's right.
So take it away. Where do you want to start?
Yeah, so, well, of course, when you're talking about preserving, you're talking about multiple different methods. We've got canning, fermenting, dehydrating, infusing. Am I forgetting something? Now there's freeze drying.
Well, sure, there can be curing.
There can be different curing. So you kind of have a lot of different methods. But one of the major mistakes that most people make when they get started to preserve food to actually eat off of in their pantry has to do with getting these great, wonderful books that have all these amazing recipes in them. This one's the Ball Book of Canning and Preserving. It's a great book, but when you start looking through these as a new canner, you start seeing recipes like, let me see, like melon jam or like tamarind chutney. Or I had another one picked out here that was the
something marmalade.
The double onion marmalade, and they look amazing. And you just go,
well,
wow.
They probably are, right?
I'm sure they taste great. There's no question to that. But what ends up happening, especially with new preservers, is they start looking through recipes like that, and somehow they end up canning all sorts of condiments and jams and things that they don't already eat. So you end up with this beautiful shelf full of food that then you're left to kind of go, now what do I do with this?
And so if you're, let's make a distinction. If you're hobby canning, if you're playing around, if you're having fun, you're wanting to make specialty items, that's great. But what we're talking about is preserving food for real world eating, meal planning, keeping your larder stocked up.
Absolutely.
You know, all the different things that tie into homesteading and producing, preserving all our own food.
So
that's a different story.
It's a different story. So that artisanal type of preserving like that, where you're getting these really fancy things at the end, is great. And you should do some of it, and it makes amazing gifts. So I like to do a little bit of that every year just to be able to give something fancy or have a fancy meal. But in the end, preserving should save you time and money, and it should bring you health. Okay? So if your canning is not doing that, then you're probably not planning out your canning year or your preserving year, preserving in general, very well. You need to do that a little more efficiently. So some of the things that I like to do, let me look at my notes here because I'm getting lost. Plan ahead what your family actually eats. Look at what you're eating a lot of and think about what you're going to have ready for you, either, you know, coming out of your garden, what you're going to have available in
Hopefully
your garden.
You're growing what
Hopefully
you eat. We've talked about that.
Yep. Or maybe out of the farmer's market. What are you going to have in season there that you can get at a discount, but really good quality and usually bulk? You know, a lot of times you're going to be able to get peaches at the height of peach season at a really good price. Or tomatoes at the height of tomato season for a really good price.
And you really want to hit farmers markets for that. I mean, most places now there's a farmers market somewhere close to you. And one of the things Carolyn did early on, before we were growing a lot of food and we really didn't have access to much fruit. Now we grow a lot and we actually live in a region where there's access to a lot of, if we'll pick it.
Right.
But early on, she would go either to markets or growers and ask for the seconds, because a lot of times they're, you know, there are just some stuff's in season for a while, but people aren't buying it. The new batch is coming in, or you're getting to end of season, and you could get fantastic deals on everything from tomatoes to beans to corn to peaches by being willing to buy their leftovers in bulk and take as much of it from them, even if it was maybe a little more than you wanted, as possible.
And I would let them know at the beginning of the season. I would go to them and I would say, I can. I preserve food in different ways, and if you ever get a good deal on something, or you have stuff that's left over that you're willing to get rid of for more cheaply, but it's still in good enough quality, condition for me to can it, then give me a call. And I would leave my phone number with them, and I started getting phone calls. Hey, I'm gonna have 3 cases of peaches here. I'll give them to you for 75% off if you'll come grab them.
Yeah, otherwise they were gonna throw them away.
Or they were gonna throw them away. And I would get just amazing deals on really good quality stuff that I just wouldn't have bought otherwise. So one of the things to really think about as you're thinking about what your family would eat is, and what you can get, is what can I put up that will actually take the place of something that I would buy that would be on our plate for a meal. So a side dish, can you can green beans and have them take a vegetable place in a meal and have that save you money and time when you're going to prepare that meal? That's probably going to be a lot better choice economically than doing a bunch of dilly pickled green beans, which are kind of a fun, maybe a little side snack sort of thing.
You're only going to eat so much of those
There's
at the
only
table.
so many you're going to eat, yeah. Right. But if you can make it a part of a main meal, then that's just going to end up saving you a lot of money in the long run.
Right. Yeah, and I think one of the next steps in that I've seen you do more and more is then either several things that can make a meal, like canned meat, canned potatoes, canned green beans, or other veggies, and or then combining those and making ready-made meals.
That's right.
Of things that we like.
Yeah, so it's always nice to have different options when you're going to can. We're kind of talking a lot about canning because that's where a lot of these things fit in right now.
That's where a lot of people want to start. And
it's true for other things, dehydrated especially.
Well, the thought process is the same, right? Whether you're dehydrating, even fermenting to an extent.
Yeah, but this specific point about having different options as to how to group things together is true for the dehydrating as well as the canning, is that if you have green beans canned and potatoes canned and meat canned, you have a lot of options. You can put them all together to make a quick stew, or you can use them all separately for different elements of a meal that you need. That can be really, really helpful, again, at replacing your actual meals and not just fun little side, what am I trying to say? Side snacks. They're actually more like snacks,
Yeah, they're I don't know, accentuations.
Goodies.
They're goodies. They're condiments, really, that you add to the meals.
Right.
And, you do a lot more of those now fermented than canned because they're better for us and they actually add nutrition back to the meal than just a goodie. And I really like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, condiments, really.
Yeah. So start trying to replace your meal elements. And sometimes that can be going back to the peaches, just plain canned peaches. And I like doing just plain fruits in a fruit juice rather than in a sugar syrup, so that you just don't feel bad at having that for breakfast. You're not giving your children a whole bunch of sugar. And a lot of times I'll make that choice over the choice of a jam, which is of course delicious and we all like it, but there just tends to be a lot more sugar in something.
Now that's
like
not
a
to
jam.
say she doesn't do a lot of jams. We got a big household and we all like our jam
And
on
we do.
fresh homemade biscuits or,
or
whatever. So homemade waffles, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But you do, and I've also noticed with tomatoes that you're doing a lot more just canning tomatoes instead of spaghetti sauce.
Trying to make
or pizza sauce, which you've done plenty of. You've done plenty of spaghetti sauces or meat spaghetti sauces, different varieties. And I notice, and it leaves a little more flexibility, and it's actually really easy to use.
It is. It makes it really easy to use because then you can make it right in the last minute, and the canning it's a lot easier. And it just leaves a lot of that flexibility. Right. So the other thing is getting into making that convenience food where it's all ready for you and all you have to do is dump it in a pot and heat it up.
We did that for lunch today.
We just did that for lunch. We had a busy morning.
Usually we're getting salads right now, but it's super hectic, busy, and didn't make it to that.
So we went to the pantry and grabbed a jar of chicken enchilada soup, dumped it into a pot, and within 5 minutes we had soup ready that was really healthy and hearty.
That's what I needed. I mean, I've really been loving the salads and the fresh eating, but all the work out here.
Yeah,
it was
needed
good.
a little more.
It was good, yeah.
A little protein boost there.
Yeah.
So, okay, so then one of the other things that I really want to highlight is that when I'm making buying decisions, when I have to buy in food, to preserve. If I have to buy all the ingredients for something at full market price, like I'm going to the grocery store just to get it, which we don't tend to do a lot of anymore because we do grow so much ourselves. But back, there was a time where we were going to the grocery store to buy things to can. And my rule for myself was always, if I have to buy it all at full price, I'm going to just buy it already preserved. I'm going to buy it already canned. I'm not going to go to the grocery store and buy full price tomatoes to then go home and do the work of canning diced tomatoes. If I'm in that position, I'm just going to go ahead and buy the canned tomatoes already. Because again, going back to that idea, preserving food should save you time and money somewhere in the big picture. It may not be immediately, you know, it may be months down the road where you're not having to buy the ingredients for lunch or for dinner because you've already put that up. But at some point, this should be saving you time and money. So those are some of my top big planning tips for the year.
Those are really good, and just thinking ahead.
Thinking ahead.
In what you're doing in your garden, and it really, if you're trying to grow your own food too, it goes all the way back to what's in the garden. And what are you growing, or what does your farmer's market have? What does your local farmer have? And so that getting prepared ahead of time while the preserving season really starts kicking in July, August, especially August, but you know, July, depending on what's coming in and some of the fruits. And in our region, it's going to vary a little bit. But you've really got to be thinking about that way ahead of time. And especially if you're not growing a lot of your own food and you're wanting the deals, you're wanting to find that value, because economics, while health is top for us, we want to be producing food as healthy as we can for a less cost than we can buy it for. So if we can,
so we're ending up with a better quality for a lesser price.
For a lesser price, right. And we exclude our labor in that generally, in that thought. But for all our costs, we want to do better. So that takes some forethought, whether it's in the garden or whether it's networking a little bit with local growers, and then combining what's available with what you like. And that's, you know, sometimes you might have to take something that's available. It's not your favorite, but works real good. It's good cost. And sometimes you might hit a jackpot.
Sometimes you do, Well, and that's another really important thing to do, is to be ready to respond to the season. Right, so here I'm talking about plan out your year, plan out what you want to can, and I'm going to tell you the exact opposite here, which is that you have to have a little of that flexibility to say, okay, I just had a bumper crop of tomatoes this year come out of the garden. I don't generally need this many. What do I do with all of them? Take advantage of that when you have that, and remember to think through, what can I make out of this that's actually going to take a place of something on my meal plate? Because that's going to be what's going to end up saving you money in the long run. And as a little plug, learn how to ferment things like tomatoes. So when you get overrun with them, you can ferment them. And they're so good that way, and they're so healthy that way. So we'll try and link the fermenting tomato video.
I wish we had the room to just crock ferment all of our tomatoes.
Just do barrels of fermented tomatoes.
Can we do those in 50-gallon barrels?
I think we should
try. I'll find a spot.
Sounds good. I don't know if we're growing that many tomatoes to have that many
this first year on this site, there's no way we're going to do that.
But we should, because they are so good, and they take about 30 seconds to do. They're so fast. So check out the video on that if you haven't seen that. But most vegetables can be fermented really, really quickly in terms of your time in the kitchen. So that's a really good thing to check out when you're just getting overrun and you need to catch up. Just ferment it. It goes fast.
You know, I got to add something I observed that you've done that allows you to have this perspective that you do have to add in, and that is some experimentation with what the family will eat, what the family likes, different recipes. So you do need to try things. You've done really good and really good at seeking out opportunity and taking advantage of opportunity. She won't say no to food. If somebody calls up and says, hey, we've got these 2 giant cherry trees, the usual people didn't pick them, and would you guys like to come pick them? We know you've got a large family. We know you can.
No more often.
And we've already harvested a bunch of fruit, a bunch of cherries somewhere else. She won't say no. And so
because I don't want people to stop calling me and telling me that. As part of my reason is like, yes, I'll do it. Yes, I'll do it.
But it's that opportunity, because then you've picked cherries and you might have 2 years worth. But you've gotten it done, and that's not always easy. But it's that opportunity that ends up getting you healthy, cost-effective solutions.
Absolutely.
By taking advantage of those opportunities or seeking them out. And if you're not in an area where you have those types of opportunities, again, you've almost certainly got farmers markets or growers somewhere to interact with growers and find a way in. And you can be helping them out by, you know, being available to take what, you know, they're going to have to throw away or whatever.
It's a good way to get a really good deal. I'm going to tell you a really quick story about the one time I said no. This is like 5 years back, and I had already canned over 1,200 jars of food that year. And I remember I kept telling myself, there's only one more thing to can. There's only one more thing to can, and then I'm gonna be done. I'm gonna take months off of canning. I'm not gonna can anything else. And so when a neighbor came up and said, I've got 3 flats of quinces that somebody's trying to give me, and I was like, what do I do with quinces? I've made quince jam before, actually, so I do know what to do with it. But I said no, and you know what? I have regretted that every time I've thought of it since. Why didn't I take it and make quince paste to go with cheese? It sounds so good.
Oh,
anyways,
boy.
Okay, so
quick
say no.
summary for planning ahead for canning. Can you summarize the steps so people can be thinking about that now?
Okay.
Because canning season's out there a couple months. So quick few steps, and anything that maybe wasn't in your kind of bigger take, are there a few just practicals?
Okay.
Jars, lids, whatever. They're just few quickies that you can.
Quickies, okay. Basic overall. Always look to be replacing something you're already buying at the store for meals. That's kind of the #1 biggest thing. And #2, your canning and your preserving should be saving you time and or money somewhere along the way.
While increasing your health. And
increasing your health, right. So there's a little balance in that. So those are kind of my big takeaways. Quick tips, make sure you know the price of a brand new jar in your area before you go buy them at the thrift store. That's one of my biggest tips, is because a lot of times you look at a jar at a thrift store or you know, a yard sale or something like that, and you think, oh, that's a great deal. If you go home and you do the math for a brand new one that you don't have to scrub up as much, a lot of times they're actually cheaper for the brand new ones. So
used in this case is
not always best. It can be, but you have to know the price and be ready to tell somebody, I can get that thing brand new for whatever it is that year. Will you give it to me for this price to make it worth it? So that's my practical tip for the moment.
All right,
Is that good?
Very cool.
Okay.
That's great.
All right.
And so we're about to wrap it up, and next week we're gonna go away from meal planning, preserving for a while, come back outside.
Right.
And we are gonna talk about dairying on the homestead. Dairying. So small scale production for ourselves. The dairy cow is, or dairying, for us it's a dairy cow. It might be goats for somebody else, different options. But for us, in doing the numbers, dairying, a dairy cow is the most productive system behind gardening.
Meaning
for value, economically, for the value that we can pull out of it.
Yeah.
The garden is super, super high. I can 5x, 10x easily what we invest in a garden in a year. Easily. This year we'll do that, and we have high investment. In the coming years it'll blow that out of the water.
Right.
But a dairy cow, if you use her properly and her products properly, is up there pretty high, even though she's a high investment and she's quite a bit of work. She's very, very productive.
And nutritionally, it's a very high return.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we're probably going to talk maybe a couple weeks about a few different animals, but we're going to start with dairying and just our more philosophy and approach to dairying and how it works for us.
If you haven't caught the pictures of our brand new calf Sugar, again, jump over to Instagram and you'll get a couple really good pictures of Sugar the little calf and Molly the milk cow.
Yeah.
And again, don't miss the chance to jump on the canning class wait list and like this video, give a comment on this video. Every time you guys do that, it helps the video go further and we get to reach more people. So anytime you can like, comment, and or share, it really helps us and helps the videos go further.
Absolutely.
So.
Great hanging with you guys. You're awesome. Leave us your questions, of course, and comments, and we will see you soon.
Goodbye.
Bye.